Kurt, thank you very much for being here, and particularly want to thank Chairman Barrasso because he graciously allowed us to both have this subcommittee hearing and for me to be able to chair it. This is a discussion that's really important to all of us who are here and so many of our colleagues. Information is power today, and we see it all over the globe. When it's used improperly, it's used as a weapon. Democracies like ours require a well-informed electorate to function properly, but our enemies are increasingly trying to undermine that principle through so-called disinformation campaigns designed to mislead voters, and in doing so, delegitimize our democratic elections. Malign actors like Russia systematically exploit social media, radio, television, and print to twist facts to suit their needs and distort the truth to an unsuspecting populace. It's not just about elections. We see it today with regard to the coronavirus and misinformation that's being spread. It's an interesting tactic because it's inexpensive and yet can be very effective. It has a high degree of deniability. It's anonymous almost always. And again, if left unchecked, it can be devastatingly effective. In 2016, Senator Chris Murphy, who's here today, and I established this organization within the United States government through legislation. The idea was to have an interagency group that could help lead this global disinformation effort and work with international partners for a unified response. The bipartisan legislation, the Global Engagement Center within the State Department, is now law. It's taken a while, frankly, to get it up and going. We're going to hear a lot more about that today, but we're pleased that we're making progress. The mission of the GEC is to, and I quote, lead, synchronize, and coordinate efforts of the federal government in countering foreign state and foreign non-state propaganda and disinformation efforts, end quote. So it's a broad and important mandate. It's the central nexus of our work to create this effective shield against the falsehoods that threaten the integrity of our democracy and other democracies. We're pleased to have Leah Gabriel here with us as our first witness. She's the special coordinator of GEC. She's a former human intelligence operations officer, a defense foreign liaison officer, a U.S. Navy program director, a Navy 18C fighter pilot, and a national television news correspondent and an anchor. She's done all that within her short life, so it's very impressive. She's well experienced in combating disinformation campaigns. We're glad to have her leading in this initiative. We look forward to hearing how she has staffed the center to meet the mission. We look forward to the assessment of the emerging threats we face and the budgetary requirements moving forward. I think it's critical that we resource the GEC to meet this important mission, and therefore I support the F-2021 President budget request of $138 million. That's an increase of about $76 million over last year's budget. It's more than a doubling of the current funding, and I think that's important. And again, we'll hear more about why that's so important. Our second panel will have Dr. Alina Polyakova. I'm going to try this again. I always call her Alina, so I don't have to worry about the last name. But Alina Polyakova from the Center for European Policy Analysis, and then Dan Blumenthal from the American Enterprise Institute. They'll serve as our expert witnesses as we have a frank and serious discussion about the global weaponization of information and the U.S. government's response. Dr. Polyakova and Mr. Blumenthal have testified before this and other committees and are highly regarded for their work, and we look forward to hearing their insights. Today we'll also aim to examine the threat posed to democracies by the deliberate and intentional state-sponsored spread of inaccurate information to inflame societies. There are numerous examples of this happening, again, in just the past few years. Here in the United States, we have extensive documentation that Russia conducted a coordinated interference campaign in our 2016 elections, something we're working hard to prevent this election cycle. Elsewhere, Ukraine has been the subject of a sustained Russian disinformation campaign in response to its efforts to break free of Moscow's influence since the 2014 Revolution of Dignity. We're seeing a rise in these tactics from China, both in the Indo-Pacific and in Europe. This is truly a global problem, again, that requires an integrated global response. I was recently at the Munich Security Conference with some of my colleagues here, and we had a robust discussion about this and about the U.S.-European partnership in fighting disinformation. Today I want to dig deeper into that subject as well. With regard to the Indo-Pacific region, there has been a strong relationship between the GEC and the Indo-PACOM Command that is, I think, a model for others to follow. We'll look forward to hearing more about how this works and how the PRC manipulates or blocks information that doesn't meet their desired narratives. Lastly, I think it's important that the U.S. continue to be a world leader in efforts to combat this disinformation. Where the United States goes, other countries tend to follow. Through the GEC and other agencies, we've established a close and effective relationship with some of our European counterparts, and our joint efforts are beginning to gain traction elsewhere. The topic of disinformation is now a topic of discussion across the globe, as we saw at the conference in Munich. To continue our leadership on this issue, we've got to have an effective organization within the federal government to coordinate our response. This hearing will address how we can understand the issue better and ultimately make the GEC even more effective. The problems caused by deliberate state-sponsored manipulation of information are going to be here for a long time. They're not leaving us. The tactics are inexpensive, deniable, highly effective, and it's critical we understand the dangers they present and the best way to seize the initiative in this arena. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses in a moment and from the members of the committee. I now turn to Ranking Member Senator Booker for his opening remarks.